quick market update as the final FOMC meeting of 2025 is right around the corner. Right now, the Fed is projected to cut rates by 0.25 basis points. It's about 90% guaranteed that this is going to happen, but it doesn't stop there. There are a lot more things happening at this meeting that you need to be aware of, so we're going to make sure to tell you all of that in just a few minutes. So if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, hit the like button so it gets out to more people and more people are aware of what's happening. And let's talk about what you need to know. So first and foremost, if you want to be the first ones to know what happens on this FOMC meeting, the best thing to do is actually to go on to the Federal Reserve website, go to the FOMC meeting tabs, and at 2 p.m. Eastern time, the minutes of this meeting actually come out. So you're going to be able to see the December 9th, 10th row is going to be activated, and you're going to be able to click on the statement in PDF HTML, and you're also going to see the projections. Economic projections are also being accompanied with this FOMC meeting. So a lot of data is going to be coming out, projections for what to expect in the years to come in terms of unemployment, inflation, what the Fed is thinking for interest rates, and so much more. So if we take a quick look at what I'm going to be looking at in those projections, because the last time we got these was in September of 2025. And if we quickly take a look at this without boring you guys too much, well, we have this column here, which really shows us what the Fed is expecting for future years. If we take a look at what the Fed expected for 2026 at the September meeting, they basically had GDP at 1.8%, unemployment rate at 4.4%, which was actually a little lower than their previous projections, PCE inflation at 2.6 for 2026, which basically means that the Fed was seeing inflation rise from the June meeting into the September meeting, and similarly with core PCE inflation. And finally, you had your interest rates actually going down in total from the June to September meeting. So this is what I'm going to be looking at come these projections. Make sure you're looking at the 2026 column and see what the Fed has changed for what to think of 2026. Now, as we just said, right now, FOMC meeting is happening in just a few hours. The rate cut odds are roughly at 90%, so I don't expect there to be any type of surprises. There's a lot of people out there that are going to say, oh, well, there's a 0.5 basis point cut in the cards. I don't think Jerome Powell is going there. Honestly speaking, he's been very adamant about, letting data drive these decisions. The data isn't great for the labor markets. Inflation data has been stagnant, so I don't see how he's going to justify a 0.5 basis cut point. I do think it's just going to be 8.25. Now, nonetheless, this is still good news in my opinion, because if you imagine if there was a rate pause or even a rate hike, it would likely be a catastrophic event. So that's not in the cards, but if you take a look at what's happening next in terms of the future FOMC meetings, well, right now markets are not pricing in another rate cut before June of 2026, which is midway through the 2026 year. So 6 months into 2026, we may be having the same rates as we are going to get in just a few hours. So that is very interesting because, as we all know, we want interest rates to continue coming down. They are projected to continue coming down in the middle parts of 2026, even into the later end of 2026. But again, it is very, very slow according to what the markets are currently pricing in. We want rates to go down because it brings better liquidity conditions, more appeal for risk on assets. And as we know, QT has just ended and quantitative easing is eventually going to take place. So those two aspects combined are likely going to help our crypto coins and those altcoins that we're all holding. Now, if we take a look at what else is going to be happening on Wednesday, well, we're likely going to get more guidance into what Powell says at 2:30 for 2026 as to what the Fed is going to do. Here, Bank of America is predicting that an extra move will happen where $45 billion in monthly short-term treasury bills are going to be purchased to maintain bank reserves and prevent liquidity issues. Now, they do also say that combined this with MBS reinvestments, total bill purchases could reach about $60 billion per month. This is onwards 2026, so just as soon as, January, but that these reserve management purchases aren't actually quantitative easing. They basically just aim to keep money markets functioning. It's not stimulating lending, but that is still something good, reassuring that, liquidity conditions are not just going to be absolutely chaotic. And eventually, with more interest rate cuts, QE hopefully restarting eventually, that's going to bring retail back into the picture. And if I leave you guys off with this last point, Jerome Powell's term finishes in May of 2026. There's already been rumors that Hassett is going to be the one replacing Jerome Powell, and he's basically made it very clear that if Trump wants lower interest rates, he's going to go and cut those interest rates. So if we take a look at a listen of two different interview questions that Trump was asked, very, very interesting here. He was asked how he thinks about the economy, the US economy that is, and he said A+++. And on top of that, he was asked if the new Fed chair will be expected to lower interest rates immediately, and his answer was yes. So again, in May of 2026, when Jerome Powell's term finishes, these projections currently could be quite different as we get a new Fed chair. We could see all of this change drastically. We could run very hot for, the last part of 2026 and then get into potentially major issues later in 2026. So I hope you guys are ready for this FOMC meeting. Again, Hassett has said that the Fed has plenty of room to make large cuts. Whether or not we're going to see Jerome Powell do that, I highly doubt it. He's likely going to finish off his term in May with, maybe one or two more rate cuts and then leave it up to him, Hassett, to continue cuts if he wants to. But that is what to expect for today's meeting. Again, listen to what Jerome Powell has to say at 2:30. Hopefully it is more dovish than bearish, as it's going to help the markets. And if you take a look at Bitcoin right now, to finish all of this off, Bitcoin is currently sitting at 92,400. It has been in this uptrend ever since the later parts of November. And if we take a look at Ethereum is quite interesting as well. It has actually outperformed Bitcoin over the last few days. And if you look at ETH Bitcoin's relationship, we can absolutely see that, for the better part of the last few months, ETH was bleeding to Bitcoin, but just over the last, few days, we've finally seen a breakout for ETH versus Bitcoin, which should ultimately be good for Ethereum and hopefully your altcoin. So keep your eyes peeled for that FOMC meeting. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. If you want to get all of this info before it gets out to YouTube and you want to see what I'm buying and selling, we do have a private Discord. That's the first link in the description below. And with that said, make sure you smash the like button, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.